everybody joined hand to let them know that they are false. How will you expect Dr. Bolam to borrow 200 million? Wow. He was asking for 200 million. Someone will give you 200 million to buy drilling machine. That's the machine we use to drill.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, I understand him because they are the children I was trying to help up. And after that meeting with my mentor, his life changed. Because it's not that he was not making money. The first thing is when we started the business, he needed some more money, like the 2 million or so. I said, okay, I was able to raise the 2 million and send to him that I'm borrowing you. But you know, any money you borrow a friend, you should as well as say you have given him. But I didn't want him to continue staying in his family house. So without 2 million, he was able to start his business, move out, and he was doing well. All the news is that he started changing cars. Last time I was in Abeokuta, he just said, "Goli, where chief? I say I'm coming. No, are you coming? I say I'm not coming to carry. Come and carry me." He came with the first time to come and carry me with a Honda Pilot. They took me around. I was in the after 3 days. Last time I went to Abeokuta December, he came with Camry. And me, I've been using my only one. So, we now did something, and so I was not asking him that, this is your business, you should go forward. He said he did 200 million that I should borrow him. I said, I don't have 200 million to borrow. He said, no, that he now brought his statements of account for the whole year. And the money that went to that account is more than that 200 million I was looking for. But the problem with him was that it was just like a conduit. The money was coming in, I was going out. I was like that some years ago. That's why I was like that some years ago. As the money comes, the next thing is to travel abroad and go and flee the money. Go for holiday, and then after 6 months, I come back to Nigeria, also again. Make the money complete. I don't enter, go abroad, freeze the money until, thank God, my mentor met me and said, Doctor, Bolahan is not how to live a life. Soak the money somewhere first. Then later, you will have a lot of enjoyment that you will not be afraid. So he didn't know. And since after that time, his life have changed. When I checked on him yesterday, how much do you have now? At least he has like 20-something million out of that 200 million. So if you continue that way by next year, you have the money and buy the machine. What I'm bringing out is that if you don't know the way, you get confused. But here we're lucky, we are shown the way. Then it will now be good for us not to follow the way. So please make up your mind. Chairman have told us you have to be responsible for yourself. Tell where do you want to go. Show yourself and stand on your 2 feet. Demand billions from the universe. The universe will give you the billions. Then you can be a better person. Don't take less than that. The universe is abundant and is ready to shower us with abundance. Today we're going to have an amazing topic. We're going to be talking about scaling businesses for social growth. It's one of the important, because as we said, billionaires don't have one business. They have businesses. So we're going to, our teacher is well prepared. You know him. He has done, and this one is his specialty. He spoke to this topic last year. My life changed. That I was looking for hospitals to help people manage, because all the data he gave us work like magic. And immediately you are here, you listen to him, apply them. By the time end of this year, you'll be smiling you did. And the billions will give you a lot of wonderful sleep. Thank you for coming. Sit down, put on your seat belt, and enjoy an amazing time. Thank you very much.
Good morning, generous billionaires. Good morning, and good morning to first timers. Okay, I don't have to use this. I've been asked to implore that everybody here should please switch off their phones so we can concentrate and you can listen and enjoy the program. My name is Tonyo Butoye. Is it working? Okay. Good afternoon again, sir. Our mentor.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for being here, sir. I'm here to introduce the speaker for today, our lecturer, Dr. GBOLAHAN Adebayo Yusuf, the medical director, healthcare innovator, and a business coach. Dr. GBOLAHAN Adebayo Yusuf is a distinguished medical professional, entrepreneur, and speaker dedicated to transforming healthcare in Africa. He holds a medical degree from the University of Ibadan and the University College Hospital, along with certifications in leadership and management in global health, project management in global health from the University of Washington, and health financing policy for universal health coverage, WHO. As the Chief Medical Director and CEO of Siloam Group of Hospitals, he leads a cutting-edge urban secondary healthcare facility in Lagos, Nigeria. His leadership has driven innovation, excellence, and accessibility in medical care. He co-founded the Accessible Care for Everyone ACE initiative in 2014 to bridge the gap between essential medical services and the average Nigerian, demonstrating his commitment to equitable health care. He's a passionate advocate for maternal and child health and organizes health outreach programs for pregnant women, offering education, subsidized care, and empowerment. Through Siloam Medical Center, he also trains traditional birth attendants and local midwives, further strengthening community-based healthcare. His contributions earned Siloam Medical Center recognition as the most effective business by SME_NG. Beyond medicine, Dr. Yusuf is a renowned speaker, is a business coach, and facilitator at platforms like the 110 Academy and the African Business Summit. He specializes in personal development, entrepreneurship, and mindset transformation, inspiring professionals and business leaders to achieve peak performance. Dr. GBOLAHAN Yusuf seamlessly integrates healthcare innovation, leadership, and philanthropy, making a lasting impact on individuals and communities alike. Please help me welcome Dr. GBOLAHAN Yusuf, our speaker and our lecturer for today, and also the governor of 110 Academy.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please, you can be seated. If there's an empty chair in front of you, I think we should just move forward. We still have. Is anybody sitting out here? We still have 2 empty seats here.
Empty seats. Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't worry. The beautiful thing about where we are is that they have bigger halls, so it looks like this hall is already small for. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon once again. Please, before we start, I would like us to appreciate all the organizers of Lagos State 110 Academy. Please, let's put our hands together for them. Because everything you've seen here is because of the organizers. Let me just share a bit of testimony. Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Is this working? Okay. Sorry, just hold on. I think the volume. Hello? It's better now? Yes. Okay. So there have been some complaints about the former venue, especially because of the environment. Our chairman, with a good foresight, said this place does not look. I know sometimes it's when I go here I realize, okay,
And I must confess, I lingered a bit. This place is better than where we're coming from. But it's Kaizen. We get better every day, and it has to be deliberate. And then we came here, I think it was last year. I can't remember. After one of the meetings, we spoke, but there was a lot of dilly dallying. And after we had that business meeting we had, the one we had in Lagos, I was not, I was in that meeting, but I was really upset because of the way the organization and all of that. And I think it was from that meeting or the following week, I just came here and sat down with them here that, see, we have to finalize this. I needed to send a mail. I sat down here. Please, let's appreciate Mrs. Casting Sushi. Really assisted. I sat down here, we both constructed the mail. So we got here and they had increased the price. The price I saw online was different from when we came the first time. And when I came that, the price had gone up again. Then we said, okay, we're going to be using this place. Can we negotiate? We're doing it for 1 year. And then the price had gone from, so it was 18 per hour to 25 per hour. I came here, it was 30K per hour. So I was going to send a mail and I was still trying to negotiate 25K per hour. But I was like, no, why don't I just say 20K per hour then if we're going to negotiate? And then we sent the mail that we're even going to pay upfront 1 year. And then the reply was like, okay, it's okay by us. And then when I sent the mail, I came to that's why I said you clap for them. I came to them that I've sent a mail that we are paying. You understand? Committed. I know the beautiful thing is they give us go ahead and we all rallied around Dr. Otusonya, Dr. Akinsonya. A lot of people came together and then we made that happen. So let's appreciate them again. Yeah, let's appreciate. Thank you very, very, very much. Thank you. Now, I've said that to now say this. The plan is to pay annually. We're not going to be paying monthly. It's a shared space. And it's in our best interest to just lock down our date and the time. You understand? So we want to call in for well-meaning individuals who also want to be a part of this. Mrs. Toyin Alfonso, please, can you stand up? You can meet with her and then you can only say, okay, so I've been blessed by this. I also want to commit to the venue. We don't charge, we don't ask anybody to pay for these seminars and the little we can do. Thank you very much. Yes. So today we're talking about scaling business for exponential growth. There's a quote it came to my mind when I just sat down. I think it's correct. That life is in phases, men are in sizes, right? It's correct. Okay. It's amazing how the brain works. And just like we've all gone through the phase of we're giving birth to, spend our first year as infants, toddlers, preteens, teenagers, and now we are adults. And for every phase, there are different demands. The life we live now is a function of how we have lived those previous stages. And that's the same thing about businesses. But for business, unlike growing up, you grow up. Either you want, every year, you say Happy New Year is a new year. The biological clock is going on. When it's time for puberty came. Either you're ready for it or not. Businesses is a bit different. And the difference is that the rate at which you grow depends on a lot of factors. Most times based on how you conduct your business. Sometimes there might be external factors. Let me give you an example. A personal story. I said I wasn't going to share any of my story today, but it happens as I was driving down, the story came to mind. I said, okay, I'll share this one then. I was planning to share the Abib Olamide group's story. I was going to take permission to share your story, but I'll start with mine, then we'll go on with yours. Now, we started our hospital in 2014, and by 2016, we had to leave because the landlord had said it would increase the rent. We first increased the rent, then we paid, and then said he wanted to sell. That's a long story. I don't want to read. That's not the important thing. But then we now started to search, and we found the building, and we're a 13-bed hospital when we started. When we found the building was big, the space, I sent him all the pictures. There are other things I won't say, but I said to our president, he said, no problem, go ahead. I was hoping he would tell me that with all these things I've said, maybe I should look for somewhere else. He said, go ahead. I said, okay. So anyway, we moved from 13 bed to a 30 bed hospital. Yes, I shared testimony, we clapped. But not longer after we moved in, I realized that even though that was growth, we were not ready for that growth. Because we had a staff strength of, I think, 12, and we moved to a staff strength of 28, which meant we added 15 new staff. So whatever culture we think we have built, we had to explain to a larger percentage of how we did. And that was the main challenge. It wasn't because we didn't have the system or the structure. But that year, because if you look at even our revenue year on year kept going up, but that 2017 came down and then 2018 went back up. I'll share some of the things we did. You understand? But what I'm trying to say is that sometimes you might scale too soon, too fast, just like growth. So what has happened to us because we had to move? What did we do? What did we do at the time? I'm going to share some of them today. So when we say scaling a business, it simply refers to the entire process of growing and expanding a company's operations, revenue, and market reach while maintaining, this is the important thing. If you're expanding and you cannot maintain the efficiency, profitability, and competitiveness, then you are scaling too fast. You're scaling too early. So scaling a business is not all about, okay, now I want to expand because I feel I should expand. And now we're going to talk about when you would know, because there are things you should know. And I could just tell you now, you're running a business and then you realize that in the location where you're hitting your targets easily. So you're setting your targets in terms of either revenue, either in terms of customer engagement, in terms of developing your team, and you see that you're hitting them easily, then it probably means that maybe it's time to expand. It doesn't mean you should, but that's one of the factors. Second thing is that you built a team that is reliable. You built a team that if you step out, they can run the business without you. Then probably it could be time to scale, or we can say you are built to scale. You get what I'm trying to say? Your customers your sales is predictable, meaning that your customers love you and they always come back to you. So you have steady cash flow. You understand what I'm saying? Then you can think of scaling. If you're a business where and what I mean is this, you could also, because it might not be every day you sell, but every month you have positive cash flow. Every month you make profits. You understand? Let's go into cash flow. Every month you're making profits. You're setting your goals and you're hitting them. You understand? Then you are built, you're ready to scale. Sorry about that. That every month you are making profit, then you're built to scale. Now, you then now decide if you should scale. So if you're a business where making profits monthly is a struggle, it's not time to scale. So because I started this business with my friend, and my friend now has his business in 3 or 4 locations, also it's time for me to scale. Or I came to the seminar today, of course, by the end of today, you will know, and that's what we're talking about. I just want to go and scale. I don't know what you guys are doing. You should be able to handle yourself. Motilo. It doesn't work that way. So, accessibility, one, you have a team that can operate without you. Your revenue goals, your revenue target is so easy for you to achieve it. You can predict your sales, positive cash flow, then you know that possibly you can actually scale. When we talk about exponential growth is more of rapid increase, rapid growth. So rapid increase in sales, rapid increase in customer turnover. You understand? But the beautiful thing about exponential growth is that exponential growth comes from small, consistent, improved actions. When we think of exponential growth and we're looking at examples, we'll talk about businesses that are doing $1 billion. But what we should know, and if you study each and every one of them, you realize that they didn't just start one day and then they are at that level. There are few stories, especially when you go into the tech world. Somebody builds an app that solves a problem. A bigger company comes and sees the potential in that business and comes to buy. Those ones are, and those ones are in that sector. You don't really find that everywhere. You understand what I'm saying? So, like the tech, the financing in fintech now is big business, right? Sometimes I said that maybe, and I knew more too. Maybe I should just, but we're there already, don't worry. So exponential growth, and that's why we know that this is something we can do, because it comes from small incremental growth. The difference between a tree and a small plant are two things. One is the time it takes the tree to reach its maximum height, right? And secondly, the time it even starts to grow. And that is based on the root. You understand? It takes a longer time for the tree to grow because it first has to dig down the root. Because the deeper the root is, the easier it gets its source. Secondly, the firmer it can stay on the ground so that it can carry the weight of the entire tree. Like you talk about the foundation of a skyscraper is different from the foundation of a bungalow. You get what I'm saying? So most of what we're going to be talking about is how do you dig deep to prepare your business in order for it to scale. Because if you prepare your business properly, you will have positive cash flow. You understand? You have a solid team. You understand? You hit your numbers easily. So naturally, to scale will not be a problem. Do you understand? Are all businesses scalable? Now, let me explain one more thing about scale, and then you understand. Now, when you're scaling, most times we talk about horizontal scaling, and that's, in fact, in terms of expanding your products. So the products you actually in, you sell more of it. Then probably you open another outlet. Like this, there's this supermarket that just blew up everywhere. I know. I won't be one to say they are not paying me for advance. What's it? Yes, it is. It is everywhere. I don't know their story. You understand? But you know that they can be everywhere because that business is easy to scale. Is it not? It is supermarkets now. They have shelves. They've embraced technology in order to capture all their inventory. And even at the point where you're going to pay, it's still technology. And then they get a few people to stay there. It's easy to scale. Yes, I know, but it's a franchise and it's everywhere that fast because it is easy to scale. You understand? There's some other guy recently brought big money into a particular hospital, but you have not seen them everywhere like you have seen them because it is not as easy to scale. Technology, tech is easy to scale because tech is also what's helping every other person to scale, and we're going to talk about it. It's easier to scale when you bring in tech. You understand what I'm saying? Because even in tech, people work remotely everywhere. So not all businesses can scale. Some businesses are harder than the others to scale. The experience of the doctors here, like Dr. Shodipo said, is because somebody hacked how to automate hospital business. That's why we're forever grateful, sir. He hacked how to, because service-based businesses are not easy to scale. You can scale them, but they are not easy to scale. People that are in consultancy, those that are the likes of KPMG and all of that, they are not so easy to scale, especially if your clients want only you. You are the solution to their problem, and then you are trying to scale. But it's the same thing that we thought was the case with doctors, right? If they don't see you, they will not see anybody. But we understood and we embraced the principle of die while you are alive. And then we understood that, see, you create a system, and then it's easy to scale. So my point here is that even though it's not all businesses that can scale, you understand, the way you actually conduct your business will determine if you will scale or not. Most times the mistake we make is we think scaling is about the product. So the doctor feels he is the product. You understand? Because he's the one selling. And he feels the whole thing is about the product. Now, if you spend all your time on your product, you actually run a bakery or any other business, and you think that you just have to make sure your bread is the best bread. That's the only way you can get to the point of scaling. Then that is wrong. It's important, but it's not the most important here. I'm sure a good number of us can guess what's the most important. You think his personality? They love Dr. Yusuf. He's a wonderful doctor. If you see him, your problem, we don't even know how he does it. Once you just sit down in his consulting room, problem is gone. You understand? And Dr. Yusuf thinks that it's all about him. No matter as good as he is, he's very wonderful. And then his nurses are rude. The front desk officer, see, I beg, madam, I'm busy. If you cannot wait, go and come back. Can you imagine you hearing somebody say that in your business? You will faint first. You first collapse. Before you say, who is, go and bring that person. In fact, you don't want to see that because you are not sure what you're going to do to that person. So, product is not the first thing. Neither personality. It is system. To actually scale, you understand, to understand and to do this business very well, let me advise you one book you should read. And that book is the book written by our president, which is How to Create a Business That Thrives in Your Absence. Because scale is saying that where we are, we max it out. Then we go to another place and do the same thing. It has it not happened that some people, when they leave that place and go to the next one, this one collapses. So you have to first create a business, and that is creating a system that can work in your absence. So if you are trying to build to scale, then the mindset is this: these things that I'm doing, our entire process, can it be replicated? Can we create a system? And we've talked about them before, we'll talk about them again. Can we create a system that once we hire the right person, you just plug and play? It is not when you plug and then there's a problem. So your business should not be people dependent. It should not be about the personality. It should not be product dependent, but should be system dependent. Because if you can create a system around it, then it's easy for it to run on its own. Then you can consider it scaling. So I said, most times we talk about horizontal scale. But for the business knowledge, and yes, and it will help some people because you might be in that scenario. We talk about vertical scaling. And vertical scaling simply means that you branch into other products, into other services. So you're used to a particular service, you run a bakery, and all you do is bread and all of that, and you start to branch out into making cakes. That's also scale. You've actually expanded your services, thereby increasing your revenue. You understand? Then, and there are a few other ones. And of course, vertical scales also mean either you branch into other services or a business acquires other businesses in another sector. That's what's just horizontal, growing laterally. Vertical is entering into other sectors. So what are the key characteristics? I've said a few of this, but I put them here so I can mention them again. Key characteristics of a scalable business. I'm focusing on scalable businesses because once your business is scalable, it's easy for you to scale. Another importance of cash in scaling is that you need money to scale. You understand? You need money to scale. And in the new business, you need enough money so that you don't overflog the new business. Because the new business too needs time to actually grow. So you don't turn to someone who goes, whenever you go there, you're always shouting because they're not doing the numbers you are expecting. So what are the key characteristics? And the first thing is what I talked about, systemized operation. Now, just to stay here and explain this again, because we have new people here. If you run a business and there's any part of your business that is not documented, then you are not trying to do this. If there's any entire value chain of your business, if it's not written, that what happens from when the customer steps into your door or picks up the phone to call you, depending on where they meet you, either online or offline, and you don't have an entire document that itemizes the processes from when they enter, the various units or departments they will interface with, till when they leave or when the transaction is done. You are written down, and then from there, job descriptions carved out for people who do it, and everybody understands the process. Then you don't actually have a system. Because in writing them down, you begin to realize, okay, this is what is needed here. The person we have here is enough to do it, or we need somebody else. Or we have 3 people, and you don't need 3 people to do what they said they do. So you can just reduce the number of staff to maybe 1 person or 2 persons, such that when you have a new staff coming in, as part of the orientation is that you have a document to give to them to read. And then they read that document and follow through. That's in systemizing the operation. Another thing is when we started, I was the only doctor. We had 6 nurses. I think we started with 6 nurses. Then we're about 12 or so, or 10. When we started, of course, we then went to, let's leave that story another day. 10. It was easy for me to interface with 10 people. I was talking to them every day, encouraging them, explaining our entire processes, having conversation, and then building the culture. You understand? It was easy. But by the time we moved to 30 beds, of course, 10 gradually added, and then by the time we moved to a 30-bed hospital, it was now a challenge. Because the challenge was not because we didn't have the process. The challenge was that 12 of us were trying to convince 15 people. And in fact, it's not all the 12 that are convinced already. Let's be real. Some of them are still, and some of those ones will now join. It was a reality. Because one day I was like, what is going on here? It was when I now realized that they are more than us. And I realized, so I now have to take time out, and we have to start sitting them one after the other, and then ensuring that what we don't want, we do not permit. And then gradually, we were able to indoctrinate them to our way of doing things. So, and another thing we did, of course, was to use the departments and heads of departments system. We rewrote our organogram. So we broke, facing 15 people is not easy. So we broke them into departments and shared them amongst, because they will fall into different departments. And then I started engaging the leadership team, the heads of departments. So myself and the head of department were now reaching out to each of them. So sometimes what makes it easy is to break your organization into units, because it will be easy to reach them in that format. And then, like the structure of the tree, like the structure of the birds in the book, you understand? You spend your energy with the managers, while you allow the managers to manage the rest of them. Because it takes less energy to deal with a few people who are higher up, and you expect that the way they reason is a lot better, you understand, and they will understand. It's better to spend your energy talking to those ones, and then allow those ones to take responsibility of leading the rest. And when they don't do it right, you call them, and then you advise them again, and they go back to do it. We did that for almost a year, and then, like I said, revenue the following. So 2014 up, 15, 16, 17 came down. But 18 went higher than 2016. You understand? So it wasn't higher than 2017, it went higher than. So 2017 was the blip year for us. It was still a positive year, but the revenue, so the curve went down. So the characteristics is systemized operations. Because when you systemize your operation, it's important you increase efficiency. I said when you scale, you must not compromise on efficiency. So before you step out to scale, you actually have to have an efficient system and then improve on your processes. Because if it's a business that handles 100 clients per month, and you're trying to scale so that you want to handle 200, 300, you actually, your process must be efficient. And then you have to answer the question, do I need to employ more hands? You understand what I'm saying? Then, like I said, customer experience. You must have enhanced customer experience. Because what is important is predictable sales. You don't go expanding when you are not making good sales. So, and I'm taking my time because if this is where you are, then you have to sit down and ensure this works first before you consider scaling. And how do you ensure predictable scales? You must understand what your customers want. You must know why they buy from you. It's amazing when I asked, going around when I was actually, I would ask them. And that's something we started doing. In fact, like I tell you, sometimes when I'm preparing for these things, I see things that we either have forgotten or we're not doing. Then I go back and start doing it. We've started a campaign of getting feedbacks from our customers. You know, I just came from materials trying to get ready for this. And because it's important to know why they buy from you. Why do you want to know why they? Because when you know why they buy from you, then you know that is what you should focus on. That's where your resources should go to. Not to think about, okay, this is what I think they like. So when you know why they buy from you, it's also something that helps you in your new location. Sometimes it can guide you when you get there, even though you still find out from people in the new location. So when you know why they buy from you, then it's easy to replicate the sales. And that I talked about a predictable stream of income. There are a lot of benefits of scaling. I just itemized a few here. We already know this. When you scale, you make more money. So increase revenue and profitability. It also improves your ability to compete in the market. Because the larger your customer base is, the more money you make, you have enough in your war chest to compete. You understand? Because sometimes you can actually take up some promotional activities in order to take a larger bite of the market share. Sometimes you take a bit of a cut, or you might spend money on some promotional activities so that you can actually compete a lot more than your business. You find some of the, like even look at supermarkets. Some supermarket comes in and then they lower their prices. And then everybody knows that, okay, there was a time, okay, I can call them, don't worry. There was a time ShopRite, many years, about 10 years ago, 11, 12, 13 years ago, I knew that ShopRite, they'll tell you that prices are low. If you find it lower anywhere, you should bring back to them. I think either ShopRite or the game. They were doing that and everybody, but now in the past 10 years, I'm talking about 15 years ago, in the past 15 years, you've had other supermarkets come up here and there with their own brands. And different persons come with what they can use to wipe out the other competition out of the market. But one thing is sure, and one thing is needed to be able to do that is first your ability to even have money. If you don't have money, you cannot compete. To have money, you need more money. So scaling is one thing that it helps you to do that, improves your competitiveness. So you're in one location and there's one guy competing with you. You do very well, and then you get another in another competition. You now have source income from two sources. Actually improves your revenue and your ability to compete. Of course, I talked about it, improve your market share, your bite in the market share. Market share is another thing that determines if a business can scale. If one person is in a business where the market share is just so streamlined, there's no point scaling. If you're already taking 100 or 90% of the market share, so the available customers for you, you're already taking 90% of them. There's really no, if you expand, it's just 10% you're still looking for. Then increase brand recognition. When your business is in every state of the country, you're known a lot more. You understand? We've mentioned some of them right now because I'm sure in almost all our locations, we have them. That particular one, right? Increases your brand location and then your ability to attract better talent and to retain your people. Because a business that's run properly, good cash flow, wonderful team, will always get the best talent, of course, and they pay very well. We'll get the best talent available. Yes, so we're going to spend a bit of time here talking about developing a scalable model. And like I said, it's deciding to scale. We're talking about what are the steps to actually scale. We've talked about benefits and all. Now, the first thing is you have to make it a goal. everything starts with making it a goal. There must be that desire to actually build a business that thrives in its absence such that you can scale. So if you make it a goal, then it means that the design of that business is such that you can replicate it. Because the goal is about replicating your business. And then in replicating your business, you have to focus on working on your business and not in it. Most times, and when we start every business, we actually start by working in it. But then because your goal is to scale it, then you have to start thinking about working on it and not in it. And we've learned and we taught over time. In fact, there's a graph that shows that people work on their business, their revenue actually steadily increases. While those who work in it, it actually declines. And if you have been on both sides of the divide, you understand what I'm saying. If you are in the business, all the day-to-day challenges and limitations, you see them. It makes it difficult for you to dream. You understand? But when you step back and you are looking from outside in, there are things that being removed from those limitations you can see. And there are plans. When the plans come or the strategy comes to mind, you are not saying this thing will not work because your body will do this or that customer will do that. But you can come like say, see, this is something we can apply on our business. So it takes away the limitations. That's first thing. Secondly, is that you can actually look at the problems and provide solutions without being encumbered by all the day-to-day issues you have in the business. You get what I'm trying to say? So you should always look at working on. But in order to work on the business, you have to surrender the business. When most of us started, we did HR, right? You were accountants, right? You were offering the service itself. You were customer relations. You were front end, middle end, and back end. Am I right? We did everything. I remember I had this bag that will count all the money. It's in my bag. I'll just be strolling to the bank. I say I'm doing exercise. I walk into bank, pay. I can't remember how many years ago I did that last. But I was doing everything. And you know, as you are doing all those things, you are putting the building blocks of the business. As you are building it, because you've made it a goal to scale that business, ensure that there's a door that you are creating. Because if you don't create the door, you will wall yourself in that business. Then it's now difficult to go. What do I mean by ensuring there's a door? All those processes are documented. This is how we do it. This is how we do it. Then when the time comes, you need to employ someone to take care of administrative functions. You already know how it's done. You bring the person in, you explain it to the person, you allow the person to do it. The person might make mistakes. Don't give in to the temptation to take it back from the person. Because this business is our baby. Am I right? It's our baby. Before this person will come and scatter my sweat and blood, right? You understand what I'm saying? Don't resist the temptation to take it back from the person, but remain a coach to the person to say that, okay, this is why this happened. This is how to do it. So you continue to create those systems. That's how you work on it. Then there's another thing you want to surrender, maybe accounting. You find someone and you create a process to track these things. Create a process to oversee them. You understand? Because sometimes the fear is that once you hand over to these people, they'll just do it anyhow. There must be a metric to measure their progress. And then there's a way to supervise. So in areas, maybe the financial area where you are a bit concerned that the person might steal funds away, you have to create a system whereby, first, technology can help. Secondly, you have to take like 2, 3, or 4 of them, yielding to the cunning devices of the devil to come together to take from you. You understand? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Then, of course, at some point when you get to that level, you can even have auditors coming. But I believe so much in internal auditors than external auditors. I've seen external auditors come and go. And when the organization looked really well, they find loopholes that the external auditors No, is it not the books that will give them that they will check? So you have to create a system within your, sorry, I keep hitting, sorry. You have to create a system within your organizations to do checks and balances, even beyond finances, even for every processes. And then, of course, you can also do that. They do daily reports, weekly reports, or regular reports. And then there must be a high dependency on automation, low dependency on manual operations. Your business must be automated. Now, automation is not simply just about technology. You understand? Automation means that there are predictable steps and what needs to be done. Each person that is there knows what to do. So it must be high dependency on automation. And then when you are hiring, you hire for skill. That means that you might be looking at someone who is more culturally fit over someone with skills. You understand? You actually prioritize skill, character, or someone who is culturally fit to your organization over skills. So these are the first steps of developing a scalable model. Then, of course, you empower your staff for innovation and autonomy. If you are going to hand over something to a group of people to run them in your absence, in your presence, you should be able to empower them to actually run those things while you supervise them. And you encourage them in order to work to innovate. We must do away with this is the way we've always been doing it, and it must remain that way. You should be open to listen to people who say, okay, there's a better way. Have a conversation with them. At the end of the conversation, you might still continue with your way, but you've listened to them and you're able to make them see the reason why your way is still better. And sometimes you take up their way, or other times it's a hybrid of what you do or their contributions. Most organizations that we talk about it and we celebrate, the operations today is not the way they started. It's a contribution of people who have come along the way. We've talked about personal development. So you're not only looking at developing yourself. We're talking about reading. We talk about learning new things. We must also ensure that our staff do the same. I will tell you, I know there was a time my staff were not reading books. We're at the time where they read books now. The difference is clear. The difference is a lot. It's amazing how, for many years, when I go and sometimes I'm opportune to interact with the staff of our president's organization, I'm amazed at the level of intelligence. And I kept asking myself, is it that they find, because the goal is to hire nice people, or are they hiring nice, smart people? And you know, when you see something that profound, you don't want to accept that it's just reading, that reading is too simple to be the thing. Then, like I've done all my life, why don't you just copy? Why don't you just do it? And I'll tell you, things that we think are easy to do, so most times are the things that are difficult to do. That you find that it's difficult for people to do. Because reading book is easy, right? You can say read 10 pages a day, right? In 1 month, you read 300 pages. Average number of books are 200 and something pages, right? That means you've read the book. Reading 10 pages is easy, right? Is it possible that next month I'm going to ask you and you did not do it? It's possible. So the best kept secrets are the simple solutions, not the high falutin that we're always looking for. We want to go to a place and then we get the revelation and then the big stuff and say, oh, deep God. It's not deep, it's the simple things. I can tell you, they read and then the way they reason, the quality of thing that comes from them, you understand? I'm amazed. And then it translates in what they do. So sometimes I come to a meeting and say, okay, you guys, and I'm telling you of things, they said they talked about it 2 days ago, and this was, and this, and at the end of the day, I just have maybe one thing to say. Unlike before, where I'm the one that will say everything from start to finish. So ensuring that our staff reads is very important. And we'll talk about the kind of book you read should be a book that offers solutions to a problem that you have in our organization. So most times it's so easy. Even when I talk to people, when I do a bit of HR work, at the end of the day, I say, I have a book for you. They start to smile. They know the book that is coming. is the book to address what we just talked about. And then the book is their teacher. It teaches them even more than what I was going to say. And they come around and you find out that they are changed people. So sometimes we don't have poor staff. It's just because they have not been empowered. And it's important we encourage that they read. And this leads to having highest return solutions. I wrote it this way, but this is what I mean. That whenever there's an issue or whenever there's a challenge in the business, don't let's just think 2-3 minutes and say, oh, that's the solution that's come to mind. Let's do it. Give 30 minutes, 1 hour, sometimes 1 day of deep thoughts concerning it. You might find a better solution that will require even less money to spend or no money to spend. Because there are some things that you might have said, okay, we need to hire this person to do this. But when you spend time to go and research about it, you realize that what that person is coming to do, the person there, someone there can be trained and just do that. Because if you are going to skill, you can't have a lot of solutions that requires you spending money. So you have to, where you are, you have to develop a system whereby for every problem, everyone gets together and figure out a solution that gives the highest return and takes the least away from the business. Then leverage on your team, leverage on people. Now, there are certain people that they are big on in their own style of leadership. They can give you, this is where we're going to. This is our vision. This is the mission. This is what we want to do. But they are low on operations. Am I right? There are people like that. They are drivers. They can tell you where we're going, but they cannot drive. The first thing is, if you identify yourself, you learn how to do it. The next thing is you can identify people in your team who will complement you. So when we say leveraging, sometimes in your team, you can leverage within your team, whereby you find someone who complements you and can help you achieve what you need to do. But another way of leveraging is also that if you're in an industry and in order for you to scale, there's an element you need. Let's say, for example, let's use a payment platform. So you have a payment platform, people that pay, you will pay, we use Paystack, right? Flutter with, when you pay, okay, you use your bank app, right, to pay. Now, some people have problems paying abroad, right? Now, if your GTB is going to help you pay abroad, or First Bank or UBA, they most likely leverage a bank over there. That's what I'm talking about. So sometimes your business may actually leverage what another business is doing, and they do that a lot in tech. So you find out they say someone has the infrastructure for something. For those that are in tech, they understand what I'm saying. So somebody who is into payments has built his own infrastructure. That means he has built, just think infrastructure, like built a building to pay. He's able to offer you a good rate when you're changing your dollar, your naira to dollar, compared to someone who is having to use his own infrastructure, because you're going to make your money, then I need to add to your money. So sometimes you left, but the truth is that at that time, I don't have the time to start building the infrastructure. I'm ready for business. So I can just leverage on what he has. Yeah, so this is a scaling framework. And then I put this just like an acronym so that we can actually look at that. And it's still along the lines of things I've talked about. So we're looking at access business. So if you're branching out, you're increasing your scale and all of that. You're looking at the access of your customers to your business to interface with what you're doing. Scaling could also be you're a brick and mortar business and then you're going online. You understand what I'm trying to say? So people increasing the access is not just people walking into your business. You also look at people who can reach you via their telephones and other platforms. Then of course strategize. Because after you've made the goal to plan and all the things you have listed here, you then have to sit down. How do we work the roadmap to scaling? How do we ensure that this business is built to scale? And the simple thing I've talked about, there are two key things. Whenever you're strategizing, two things I've said today. One is systemized operations. As if every of the other grammars you don't remember. Systemized operation. Secondly is predictable sales. Two things. Your system is up. So your strategy is so that how can we systemize our operations? Secondly is understanding why our customers buy so that we can ensure that they continuously buy. Because cash flow is still king when it comes to scaling. Then optimize your processes. Of course, once you're optimizing them, accelerate them, and then your ability to sustain. Because that's what you do when you say you can replicate it. You actually have to sustain it. One thing I wanted to say, okay, let me say that here also, is that in creating systems, it's not just to create the system, because that's another thing. You don't just create the systems and leave it. You have to drive the system. You can't create a system so you have your organogram, the heads of the department, those in the unit, you have the processes, and then you go to sleep. You actually have to continue to drive the system. And it's easy for you to drive the system when you're working on, not working in it. So you have 2, 3, 4, or 5 outlets. It's easy for you to interface with the managers to ensure that they're doing what they need, what they are meant to do. You ensure that they're following up on their KPIs. You understand? So their key performance indicators, their objectives and key results, their OKRs, they're following on them, and then they're giving you reports. When we were working with Dr. Abib, then I knew we're having these board meetings every quarterly. Beautiful time, because we'll come from Lagos to Ibadan. One thing is sure, at the end of all the conversation, we eat pounded yam. That I look forward to every other thing, though, but you see that it is very important. And it's usually like a trip. It's a beautiful thing for me, because days leading up to that, you have to prepare what you have done for 3 months. You understand? A report of how you've done. Then your goals for the next quarter. You understand what I'm trying to say? So as a manager, since you know every 3 months, now we have monthly meetings at our own level. But of all the organizations, and I know it's changed now, it's not the same thing again. But at the time, that's what we would do. I know that every 3 months you go, and when you present, all your colleagues in other hospitals too will make presentations. And then, the beautiful thing, of course, you go with your full chest when you know you've done well. If you have not done well in that quarter, you go and you are very humble. But at the end of the day, you list what your strategies are. And you sit down, just the way we do at our business meetings. You say, okay, do this one, yes, this one, no. Then you also borrow ideas from the other organizations. And that's how it was easy for us to be blowing every other person up, because it's not just the one head. It's not even 3 heads because the management were 3 heads. It's 3, that's 12. And then the super head in the middle, all coming together and say, okay, go and do this. And then we'll go. It's different, you understand? Now, it does not do that, but the system, not like that, but still exists. Because now there's a structure that drives the system, because it's important. Not just to create the system, but to drive that system. So okay, see after. Okay, so key drivers of scaling technology. I've said to automate. When you talk about automating now, we're talking about technology. Technology actually helps. It helps with supervision. It helps to make our work easier. It helps with regulation. It helps with monitoring. You understand? So technology helps you work faster, optimizing your system. Technology, we have softwares for almost everything we do, right? And with AI now, we know that a lot more things are coming up. There's virtually nothing you do tech that AI cannot do for you now. AI is just like your new assistant. AI will answer your emails. AI will prepare a document for you. You understand? AI can look at a chart and analyze it for you. You know that. So I'm beginning to do a lot of things and supervising a few things in my mentoring and coaching thing. I realized that AI just makes my work easy. I was thinking of employing a executive. In fact, I've done interview. Then, like I said, I return solutions. I sat down and thought about it. I wrote down the job description of the executive assistant, and I realized that AI will do 90% of the things. And now I've kept my money in my pocket, and I'm still efficient in all those things I do. So, in whatever industry you're in, you want to search what is the technological disruption in that sector and find out which technology you can employ at your level. There are a lot of technology we employ now. You know that a few years ago, they cost a arm and a leg. Now, there's a lot of cheaper alternatives. So it's important to take your time to find what technology would assist us and also help with innovation. And then we should constantly, and we talked about that before, You are a student of your business, and you must not stop being a student of your business. You have to always research what new thing is going on. How can you make your business better? Because optimize your processes, acquire the right talents, and then develop them. Like I said, you are employing for skill. It means that you're looking at people who fit your culture than just bringing a rock star. I'd rather employ someone whose way of doing things just fits into us, and we can teach the skill than employ a rock star that is a loner and is on his own and just want. It's okay being the only right person. Doesn't care what happens to the rest of the people. That person will bring is a cancer. Before long, if you don't get them out of your system, before long it's going to scatter the whole thing. Of course, I've mentioned and explained strategic partnerships and collaborations. You can actually engage in partnerships. If you find that someone else has something, and then by adding them to yours, you can actually reach more markets without necessarily starting the whole thing from scratch. And all your decisions must be data driven. We generate data in all our businesses every day. We just don't use that data. Every time there's enough data, data is information. And if you take time to look at the information you record from your business, it helps you make your decisions. For example, you're in a clothing line and you have not looked at your data to realize that you sell more to females within the age of 10 and 18. You'll be wasting your time making clothes for men or making clothes for older women. So that's what data can do for you. Or you're trying to cut, because you're trying to downsize, you're trying to cut out a division. And then that's the division that helps the front-end guys that service the largest percentage of your customers. If you don't use that data, you might just be emotional in your decision. And because they take a lot of money, or they take 60% of your expenses, you said if you cut them off, at least 60% of expenses is gone. Everybody's happy, you clap, you drink tea and biscuits. You take 60% of your expenses away and 90% of your income is gone. So let's ensure that we recognize data and then we make decisions based on data. What are the possible challenges of scaling? In fact, one thing is managing rapid growth, and I said that in our experience. But one way you would know that you actually scale too soon is if your customers are complaining too much. If the number of complaints from customers on your business is increasing by the day after you scaled, you realize that you scaled too soon. But if you have scaled, you have scaled. Like we also had to expand. Then the next thing is to retrace the step and still follow the building blocks we have talked about today, and then you build it again. And what's the simple thing? We had to go back to ensure that the culture of the business remained. The reason why our customers were buying from us in 2016, we had to bring it back because we had people, even though they were good people, the way they do their things were different. To differentiate ourselves from the customers, we're not looking at nurses or doctors attending to the patients with a smile. We're looking at doctors and nurses maintaining the dignity of their patients. That was the thing for us. That people are coming to us not only to get well, but they want their dignity maintained. So it was a different thing, and they were used to that. They were used to doctors, nurses being courteous, doctors not just smile and say welcome, running a commentary literally when they're attending to them. And then they came to this new place, and when you get to a new place, people will first, they want to see, is this a new place, new you? And rather than have an improved you, they now found out that, okay, yes, they still say good morning, good afternoon, but they just get the needle and stick the needle and then get it out and say, okay, madam, I'm done, you can go. And because you know how you spoil your customers, if you now bring some people that now do the normal, to them, you have not done well. So if you discover that you grew too fast for your culture, the next thing is to actually retrain the people. And that's why we broke them down into unit departments, and then we start to talk to them. Another challenge is maintaining quality and consistency. That's a major challenge. Because when you expand, can they still trust the quality of the product? You get what I'm trying to say? Because before, probably you prepared everything. Now you've expanded, you can't prepare everything. Can you replicate it? And it's simple, even the people in the food business, the franchise businesses, they have the same recipe, right? And that's why they can replicate it. Wherever you go to, it tastes. In fact, you'll be shocked if it tastes differently, right? Have you ever thought about it that you expect same taste anywhere, and you've not thought about that thing is not easy. It's easy to do. They've done it, and that's a challenge actually. And your ability to do that is to systemize the process. So that's why recipe is how they've documented their process. You understand? You follow the. Oh, I went to culinary school, and they say this is the best way to do chicken. Oga, this one. This is how you will do it. It's the same thing I'm talking about. So you employ some guys and like, my place, our people are used to this. And there are some of us like that. I'm very terrible at that. If I'm used to a particular taste, okay, I'm not sure if you are streaming. Add anything you want to add to it. You have improved the quality. But as soon as you have changed the taste, let's go back to that taste. So there are people like that are used to some, and that's what they want. You get what I'm trying to say? But of course, we're not saying you don't improve on things. But if you're going to improve on things, there are still certain elements of your business that they should be able to rely on, even though you're adding to it. And if you're adding to it, it must really be better. Then, of course, there's increased complexity. The issues you're dealing with too is now a lot more than before. Because in a new locations, it might be a different, so it's complex. But if your structure, your central structure is strong, it's easy to deal with those things. And then, of course, I talked about, in fact, my story actually captured these things. Maintaining your company culture, because you're bringing in new people, you're expanding. A challenge also maintaining company culture. It's the same thing. Like I said, that's what will solve all these problems. Systemized operations, predictable sales. Yes, I want us to look at this case study. How many of us know Flutter Wave? So maybe I should have used another example. Okay, when I say Paystack, a lot of people look, okay. So Flutter Wave was founded in 2016, and their goal was to they built a software to simplify payments across Africa. Yes, and one of the things I found in that generation and that time is that most of these guys, they go outside this country, they see what is outside, and they come to do here and just bring it to adapt here. It's simple, Abby, but nobody did it until these guys did it. And know what happened to them? Of course, when they started that, they had to go into strategic partnership, of course, with global financial institutions in order to be able to make payments and all. And I think so they started, they got big clients, and then they were making some money, but they had just one client that was giving them most of their money, and they were fine. But they talked about it, that, see, we can't be tied to just one client. The day this client says no more, that's the end. And then the next thing they did was to start to build softwares that helps small and medium scale businesses. And that's when they did a Shopify-like product where people can buy and sell things. And that was just before COVID. And that was like a game changer for them. When COVID came, they were able to register over 20,000 small and medium scale businesses. And then, 1 cent, 2 kobo, 3 kobo, over multiple, they did over 1 billion transactions. Of course, they made me, and the other thing they did was, of course, it also showed the ability to adapt to challenges, because the challenge actually came when they started doing regulations. When you're in the monetary business, there are regulations in Africa. No, doing business in Africa is not like doing outside. So there were a lot of challenges. If you know their story, there was a time they were even accused of some funny things and all. But then they kept changing and adapting. And of course, when they started having issue with looking at their big client, they pivoted. Their design was, okay, payments across Africa, but we'll deal with big end clients. But when they started, they realized that, see, the small to medium business guys are the way out. And then they pivoted to that. And then, of course, they built that. Their team actually went through a lot of issues, but then they focused a lot on building a strong team, and then they implemented innovation. What happened to them? They raised over $250 million in funding. They were able to achieve, I think they were the first, I'm not so sure about this, to achieve a unicorn status in Africa. That means that their valuation was over $1 billion. and they were processed over 200 million transactions worth billions of dollars. Those guys are billionaires in dollars. This is the story of building something to scale. Like I told you, tech is a very easy. If I'm going to give you 10 examples, you understand? Maybe 6 or 7 of them will be businesses in tech. You understand? Because it's so easy to, but they are not the only one. But what I'm trying to say that even though it's easy, they still have to go through all the things we have talked about. Do you understand? So in conclusion, scaling is a critical component of business growth and success. I said life is in phases, men and in sizes. There's a lifespan for every business. And scaling is very critical because a business that continues to grow, at some point, we have to improve either vertically or horizontally. And it's important to know that there's need for planning, execution, and ongoing evaluation. Once you build to scale, all these business we have talked about, they're not businesses that are built and then the owners go to sleep. Either they have people or a structure that continues to monitor and evaluate the business, continue to drive the different processes. And by following all the things we've talked about, the framework and leveraging on key drivers, business can achieve exponential growth and unlock their full potential. Little incremental improvements done consistently is what will break every business into exponential growth. It's nothing highfalutin, it's everything simple. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So all we have said today is just trying to say that, see, just go and do your business right. Once you do it right, the time will come when you know it's time to scale. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please, you have your seat. I don't know if you have any questions, comments, or questions for our seminar today. I always like when the president is in the house, so I'm not bothered about your question. I'll just say, sir, please, can you contribute? So when I say, can you contribute, you know the reason why. So any question? Is your business at any stage and you're wondering, how do I fit into what we've talked about today? What do I need to do? The most important thing is to actually have things you need to do from what you've heard today. Or if there's any other thing you want to say. Anybody? Okay. So if there's nobody, it means we fully understand or we don't understand. I'm going by my own. Okay. Thank you. So do we have? Help me pass. Okay, thank you. Let's clap for her. Okay, let me answer that. Okay, you have another question? Okay, let's just take the question.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
I
afternoon.
just want to ask a question because in terms of scaling, what about that in case that you are, let's say you are in sadness in the healthcare industry, which inherently like a service, rendering service. If you now have to scale into another industry that, let's say, into manufacturing or farming, but definitely the value, the culture that you have in the service industry will be different. It's another thing entirely. How do you really manage especially
Okay.
going to that.
Okay. Okay, when you say culture is different, what do you mean?
I mean, I'm talking about the service rendering. Maybe the culture when somebody comes now, the process, there's process development.
Okay, the processes. Because the culture can be the same.
No, yes, I'm just
Okay.
talking about the process.
Okay.
That you can easily replicate.
Kate, okay. Thank you very much. Please let's clap for him too. Okay, so she asked the question that you're in the fashion industry. So how do you fit into what we're doing? And your fashion, you make garments? Oh, fashion accessories. So you make some yourself and then you buy and then resell. Okay. And then you asked if you're moving from one sector to another, how do you replicate the same? Thank you. So I'll start with yours. Now, all we've talked about is the same. Business is business. The principles are the same. The business might differ. For example, the first thing you want to look at first is, have you ever thought of it as a goal to scale that business? So the first thing is, how do I establish this business such that I can replicate what I do, or the business can do what I do without me doing it? So, and it's simple. First thing is you understand all the things you do, content creator and all of that, right? You do the business well enough to make enough money to start to employ. So you might look at it and maybe the first thing you need and you want to do is someone to actually handle maybe that content or actually purchases, because you need to purchase and you also make. Another or the same person also learn how to make it, because all you need to do is to replicate yourself in another person. That's how you can scale. So first is you're employing someone who understands your culture. What is your own culture? What's your business about? Let's say you make bespoke is it the right word? Bespoke actually works, or customized accessories, right? And then maybe it's Africanized. I'm just making up words. I might be right. So you want to bring someone who also actually buys into that. You're not going to employ someone who doesn't like African things and just feel everything must be foreign. That person does not fit into your culture. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you bring in someone who can learn or do what you do. You understand what I'm trying to say? So that improves your turnover. You can actually reach more people that way. That's one. Then you start to create a system and a company really out of it. So you need people who handles your online presence, right? How do people reach you online? Both online and physical. So you start to work with people all around you. It's the same thing. We all start the business ourselves. We only employ people that we actually need at the start. If I could give injection and do all those things, I would do it. But you need one, you need the next. And then as your business grow and you realize that you are beginning to turn back orders, that's another thing that tells you scaling means expanding. You are no longer able to even meet up with demands. It's time to actually scale. It's time to expand. But when you are bringing them in, it's not just for the sake of expanding. They must be a cultural fit. Then when they come in, the job description is clear of what they need to do. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's the same thing we'll do. It's just like I said, some business might be easy to scale than the others. But I've realized that the ones we thought were not easy to scale, we've had people scale them, scale those businesses very well. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I might have used supermarket, tech, and hospitals, but you can do the same thing in every other business. And I think to also answer your question is, before, if I understand your question clearly, is, so I feel that before you're in hospital, it's just like our mentor that went from hospital to hospitality, but they attend to different clients. It didn't move from there to the next, not until when it's sure that hospitals ran themselves without him. So it's the same thing. And before he went into hotels, what did he do? He studied the industry. You get what I'm trying to say? So you still have to study. Then you understand, okay, this is what I need to do to actually excel in this industry. You get what I'm trying? And it's still, when we say culture, is the same. If it's a culture of excellence, it's a culture of excellence. Either hospital or hospitality or manufacturing business. Of course, you understand the intrigues of the business, and then you create the same thing around it. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you very much for the presentation, comprehensive and well simplified. So simplified that you were even able to make it easy that you describe a template that one can even make use of it for startup in itself, because you took time to even mention that for having to scale up. So I have two questions. One is that at the point that you are scaling, now is it necessarily that you must maintain or remain consistent with the profit trajectory that you were having before, having in mind that when you are scaling, it's going to really require investment. You have to probably spend, and because you are going to expand and the likes. So definitely, I think that probably you should even be looking at it that you will not really be getting the profit that on the rate or the level that you were making.
Can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of what you mean by that? What kind of scale are you? Know that is it a scale where you are in a particular place and then you opened another this, or you expanded your products or the scope?
The expansion of
the scope. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Now the second question now is that now how do you now deal with the situation where, of course, you will be training your workforce, and now at the point that you are scaling, it is when you are now experiencing attrition, where some of them now have to exit or leave the business. I think it's going to create a serious challenge at that time. So how do you deal with it?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Please, let's clap for him. So the first question is it important that you maintain your sales when you are expanding your scope? Now, and that's why, when I said what's important is your ability to predict what you're selling. So let's say, for example, you're moving into another line of products. It means you are investing in that product. But the current product that's been selling, are you saying that we should expect that can reduce, or you are looking at generally as a company?
Now look at generally.
Yeah. Now that profit, and that's why I said even if you're looking at another center, you're making enough, and that should be maintained. Even though you have to be patient with your new product, because it needs to hit the market, people need to know about it and all that. But your cash flow is still positive because the one that is giving birth to the new one should still be doing well. That's what I'm trying to explain. The new market, because it probably might not just take off like that, but the business needs to still survive. You also need to still be okay while you're giving time to that. Yes, and then your second question was that? Okay, yes, thank you. Yes, so, and that's the period, but I think that has slowed down now. I think 2022, 2023, there was a lot of brain drain across all sectors. And people who tried to scale at that time had issues. Now, retaining your talent, retaining your workforce might not really be because you're scaling. So actually, one should have a culture whereby you can keep your workforce. People who are going to brain drain is not directly because of your business. It's because at the time, and maybe up till now, people believe that the pastures are greener on elsewhere. Yes, but your business should be structured in such a way that the ones that are here want to work for you. So the culture of the business work environment, you understand? We're taught and we learn that our employees are first customers. So the work environment, the pay, actually must be one of the best, if not the best in the industry. You understand? The work environment must be conducive. They must be allowed to grow. They must see that they actually grow. If I should be able to boast to them that the least thing they will get from you is salary. There are other things that come around that. All of that should help because it's important before you actually scale. That's why I talk about the team. The team must be strong because you step out and the guys that make up the team that made you step out now leaves. But that should also not, you shouldn't suffer too much from that because you already have a system that is plug and play. You hire the right person and then just put them in. One of the other things you can do, which I learned also, is that when you train, the guys that are more senior should keep training like their replacement. It should look like you are training the person who will replace you. So even if those guys go, the next guys, they might be maybe 70%, 80% trained, but at least they're better than when they are not training the guys and you have to come back to train. You understand? Succession. So it's like you create a succession plan for every of your managers. So the managers is training the guys that they can hand over to. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Yes.
Sir, thank you so much for this exposition. So I want to ask a question, and it's about when you scale too fast too soon. I want to give an example of USC with Mr. Biggs, to I think them back in the 90s, then everything. And one of the issues was that started selling franchises that they couldn't maintain the standard and all that. So with the churches too, we have a branch in mainland, they want to go to Abuja and everything, and it doesn't work out. So are there situations when you've done everything and you know that this is not the time now? I have to close the other shop, I have to close the other business for now. You can just help us and give instances. Because some people will be like, I spent enough, I can't lose that money again. So they keep pouring money, even though they're not making profit out of it. So in case you experience that, you know,
Okay, well, I think I've shared one before, but one thing I would just advise, I don't have stories off the top of my head, but it's very simple. In business, you should actually, like we advise you, you make self-diagnosis. You should diagnose your business. If you look at the books and realize that there's a shop or a location that is bleeding money, and then you've done all you're supposed to do, or you realize that you actually opened it too soon, or you opened it erroneously. Like I told you, we had a hospital in the wrong location. We'll close it within a year. You understand what I'm trying to say? So if you look at it, sit down and say, okay, we expanded too soon. Our own, when we're there, it was too soon. We're forced. But we didn't close it because we knew that we had the right culture. We just had too many people join us too soon, and they've diluted what we do. All we needed to do is to just make believers out of them. And then so it's diagnosing the problem. If you diagnose the problem and the solution is to close, then the best thing I always advise is to close. If you pull the arrow back, by the time you release the arrow from the bow, what happens? It goes. So sometimes you just have to do a self-reflection and then say, okay, I didn't do this well. Let me write down what I did wrong so that I don't do it that way the next time. You understand? Or else the organization just going to bleed and bleed and bleed until they make the inevitable decision of cutting out that location. Thank you. So I didn't send him, but it was in the spirit.
Good afternoon, everyone. Actually, when you are seated, that's the time you learn. The time you are called to talk, that is the time you are deaf. You cannot learn when you are speaking. You have to, I wasn't coming here to say something, but to learn. Be that as it may, first to make contribution, I will say that in talking about scaling, for you and I, not the big one stuff class that our lecturers were talking about, I think basically two things are important. One, saving. If you cannot save, you cannot scale. It's not possible. Because at the time you want to save, scale, it is always too late to save. And then you will run into problems. And what are the problems you run into? Going to the bank. And the bank can rapidly scale you down. Number two factor, apart from saving, is reading, not newspaper. The book I always recommend for business people is the book that will develop business skill. The skill of hiring, the skill of firing, the skill of delegation, supervision, the skill of running business system, organogram, the skill of job description, and sustaining harmony in the business place. This is a very important skill because if there is no peace, there can be no progress. So that is in itself is a skill that is understanding people. Understanding people is a skill that all of these are inside how to create a business that drives in your absence. You understand? When you just take this book, like you would take your Bible, then it becomes easier for you. Even inside that book, it is stated that if you cannot save, you cannot run a business, let alone run an effective business. The business will run you. And then when the business is running you, it will only run you down, not run you up. I want to thank the lecturer for an amazing like I always say, when I sit down and I have a professor or a professor, practical professor, or theoretical professor when I was doing MBA, I never wrote what professor said. I always would write what I would do as a result of what the professor was saying. I would say, in children's ward, I would do this. In maternity ward, I would do this. In this ward, in those days, all I had were hospitals. I had 3 hospitals when I was doing my MBA. And I was only able to do the MBA because I could run the 3 hospitals in my absence. And I was doing full-time schooling. Sit down in the morning from 8 till 6 in the evening. We're free on Friday, and I will run to Lagos to see what was happening in the 2 hospitals in Lagos. You understand? So these things are practical things, and to become practical, you should embrace theory first. You understand now? Theory, be well equipped with the knowledge. When you have the knowledge, then to practice, to work, to apply the knowledge becomes very easy. Once again, I want to thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think, so every time you are here, we always call you. Thank you very much. And I think that's the best way to round off the seminar for today. So let's invite Mrs. Folake on stage to have a session.